Mike, I was going to ask you, I mean, like, you have a fantastic gym, your weight room is impeccable, but I would like for you to share your motivation as far as, what made you, incorporate, the PurMotion Dual Renegade Bars, and how do you wish it would fit into your strength and conditioning program for the basketball program?
Absolutely. Well, there's a number of different reasons, and I'll start with some coaching things, and I'll kind of maybe get into a little bit more sport-specific science reasons. But number one, basketball is a sport where, unfortunately, a lot of guys, it's not like football, they don't come in with a really strong background in weightlifting. So to do something that's incredibly dynamic, like an Olympic lift, that doesn't always lend itself the opportunity to do that. And more importantly, basketball doesn't always lend itself to having four-year athletes. Sometimes we get transfers. Now we have the fifth-year senior that transfers in. Maybe didn't have a strong Olympic piece, but it is, in fact, maybe a cornerstone of what we do. And so when I got thinking about that, I wanted to figure out ways that I could incorporate dynamic, total body explosive movements that lend themselves in terms of compliancy, stiffness, explosiveness that you would get from the traditional Olympic lifts, but in a fashion that's maybe a little bit easier for adoption and less technical cues for that athlete. Not to take away from the complexity of the system, but I think it's a lot easier. So we've incorporated kettlebell movements, and I think this is just one more dimension that we're able to bring to that. And that in itself is one of the reasons why we brought that in. It allows us to be able to incorporate traditional Olympic type of movements. And then we get to do that in a way that I think is a little bit more complementary to actual sport movement and not the sport of weightlifting.
Yes.
And I think in weightlifting, I think there's a translation to that, but again, there's a technical translation that has to happen for there's really an enhanced adaptation for that to translate out to the court. And so for here, what we're able to do is we really kind of eliminate that double knee bend. When in sport, we never really have a double knee bend.
Good point.
It's kind of, everything we do is, we go right up. I mean, we don't have time to, and then go. It's go. It's one movement, right? And so I think with this system, that allows that it removes that out of there, and I think it adds a little bit more of a sport-specific dimension. Not that we're going to come in here and pick this bar up and do a shot movement like that, but I think it does have merit in terms of having, I think what you like to use is vector. And that kind of brings me into the third part is, when we look at the sport of basketball, it is largely anterior dominant, meaning we're building, they have to have, from all the acceleration, deceleration, and re-acceleration, that's a piston movement. That is an accelerated movement. We're not working a whole lot on the posterior chain there in terms of our stopping. It's mostly anteriorly dominant. Core work there, obviously. And you are using this, but ultimately downstairs. And being able to be in this position and use the Renegades, it puts me in a position where it's on the balls of the feet, which is where we play the game of sport. We're never foot. We're never pushing back into our heels and then rocking and coming up into everything's acting on the ball of the feet. This kind of reinforces that. There's a lot of different things that I can reinforce on this, from a starting position, from a movement position in terms of understanding where your body's center of mass is at. I can't do that with a barbell, but here I can kind of lean into it and do it and bend. And again, what is athleticism? What is having kind of that kinesthetic sense, understanding kind of where your center of mass is and how it relates and moves into space. So being able to bring this into the fold, I think it's going to allow me to do all those things and at the same time be able to enhance what we're trying to do and translate out there to the court.
No, that is fantastic. When you mentioned vector, I mean, one of the things that brings value to what you guys do, like you said, basketball, you accelerating, decelerating, and with the dual renegade bars, one of the things that you mentioned is that it gives you that opportunity to, when you lean forward, to incorporate not only gravity, which is, weightlifting is 100% gravity.
Sure.
But here, we are able to bring the horizontal or the friction.
Sure.
A horizontal vector that combine give that diagonal angle, which is common.
Sure, absolutely. And I think if anybody's familiar with Lauren Landau's stuff, where he talks about your body's almost kind of like a pendulum.
Yes.
And that's front to back, and that's side to side, where you're kind of literally throwing the body out to the side here. If I want to stop, I want to make sure it's about shin angle. And if I can set myself up into a shin angle, it's going to generate the most amount of acceleration. But more importantly, teach me to put my shin angle in a position that's optimum for deceleration. I think this lends its capability to be able to do that, and at the same time, do it in part where I'm learning where kind of my center of mass is at, doing it in a little bit maybe unstable with a little bit just another dimension to what
What
we're
about
trying
the
to do.
grip that you?
Yeah, that's another, it's a really good point too. So,
It's a traditional.
yeah, so, you know, I spent all this time, I'll teach a guy on Olympic lift, he's proficient, then we start practice, he dives on the floor, boom, busts the wrist. He can't get in a clean position. So that becomes a problem, right? So being able to be in this 360 degree, this handle, to be able to do this, to be able to rock and roll back,
Keeping that neutral.
yeah, keeping that neutral grip, we can even tape that up, we can do whatever we need to do, and we can still incorporate a compound multi-joint movement.
The triple
And
extension.
again, exactly, hit the triple extension, those things that we want, manage the wrist, not compromise it or have to get away from essentially what we've done. Traditionally, what I've had to do before, if we've gotten that, we've kind of gone to the kettlebell. But again, that's a hip hinge, but it's a what? It's a vertical movement. What are you doing? You're pulling back on the bar. You're not driving really through that vector through the balls of the feet. And I think this is going to lend a lot more translation to if we have to manage any sort of exercises due to some sort of a strain pull, bump, bruise, and be able to keep them in tip-top shape out there.
And also one thing that you mentioned is that the Renegade bars also give you the ability to manage different loads from bilateral
Yes.
to unilateral to
Correct,
alternating.
absolutely. And again, you think about that with a bar, well then I'm limited, you know, you can see one side versus the other. Here, each one of these bars are independent.
Yes.
And I really like it from a standpoint too, being able to finish overhead. So lots of times we've traditionally limited ourselves with overhead, explosive type popping movements. What's the game of basketball? Finishing here,
Yep.
coming up, finishing there. Where are your hands? They're not out here, they're here. Being in this position is going to allow us to be able to do that. I think it safeguards the shoulders, gets the guys a little bit more comfortable being in that position. And the nice thing is, it's still unilateral. It's not bilateral like we get with a bar. And I don't have to worry about popping that chin. Because now, not only do I try to get them strong, there's a technique to kind of tuck the chin, get around there, and I can tell you,
Or even also, you know, potentially hyperextending too.
correct, the wrist.
excessively.
I mean, hey, listen, the guys, look at the wrist, you know, they want
Yeah, because-
exactly, you know, why hinder that, you know, and this, again, I think it serves that purpose as well.
Now, Mike, I want to ask you something because you are a very data guy, you're very analytical, you love technology.
Sure.
And one thing that I'm impressed, you know, after we installed equipment, you got your Gym Aware system.
Sure.
And you immediately went ahead and connected this string. But I want you to explain what you're trying to do now with the Gym Aware technology in the Dual Renegade bar. Because as far as I know, you will be the first one
Yeah.
using technology with the Dual Renegade bars.
Well,
What are you trying to achieve? What are you looking for?
well, I think what we try to do a couple of different things here is we can tell an athlete they need to move more weight.
Yeah.
And again, basketball players don't always traditionally understand what it means to maybe push yourself because they haven't been in this environment. They understand this, and it's not always met with open arms, if you will. So you got to kind of sell them on the idea of how this is going to translate into this. But I think really what we do from this is being able to see exactly what the athlete can do from one session to the other, whether that be from day to day, from 1 week to the other. And we prescribe, not basically weight, but we prescribe a certain velocity. Now we're managing form and technique. At any point in time, form and technique gets compromised. I could care less what the velocity is. We're going to compromise that. And certainly we don't immediately introduce this into a new athlete because, again, they just need to kind of learn. But as they get more veteran with this, we bring this system in. And again, if we want to work on accelerative strength, if we want to work on absolute strength, if we want to work on speed strength, it becomes a situation where we don't assign a weight, we assign a velocity. And then there kind of fosters a little bit of competition.
So it's not really barbell training specific. You're not limited to use only the barbell. You can use, you know, all the type of tools.
Absolutely, yeah. And being able to do this, I'm immediately able to hook it right up to this unit right here. and be able to see all that information. And it
And
gives
why
the
you
kids
were
a
trying to measure, why you were trying to look as you were doing your reps with the specific weight that you assigned? What were you looking for?
We were looking for accelerative strength. I wanted to see how quickly we want to be able to do this. I think when you're using the Dual Renegade, I don't think we need to be trying to do absolute strength. I don't think with Olympic lifts you're trying to look absolute. I'd never max test on my Olympic lifts because that's not what we, to me, that's counterintuitive to what they are. They're there to develop power and explosiveness. So we're not going to use max weight to do that. I'm going to be honest with you, I did that before in the past and I realized that wasn't the right way to do it. So in doing that, we maximize bar speed, bar velocity, and translate that and give really a graphical or numerical representation to the athlete immediately so that they can see. Because it's one thing for me to say, go faster. It's another thing, the kids to be able to see that. And then we start to create a little bit of competition here.
So you can measure mean velocity or power, regardless of the vector. It could be axial, vertical.
Correct.
Like using, traditional Olympic lift, but you can change the vector with the Renegade bars.
Still get the
or
same.
diagonal, but you still can measure mean velocity.
Absolutely. You can measure mean velocity, peak power, peak velocity, whatever you'd like. I mean, the system allows it to be able to do that. And it's probably, I would call it the Cadillac of the velocity-based training systems out there. And it's changed the way that I approach the training. We even right now the hypertrophy, there's a range that we're kind of in that we tell the kids to be in. And I tell you the nice thing about it is when we bring the freshmen in, as they kind of get that base and they get an understanding, we could be doing jumping jacks and push-ups and they're going to get stronger, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's just everything's so new. Well, traditionally what I've done before in the past is we do a max test, and then we say, okay, that's your max. And then we stay on that max load for 8 weeks, and then we retest you. Well, I'm able to come in here and see this instantly in improvement. So like 1 week, let's say we're doing an exercise, and we moved a particular weight at 0.7 meters per second. Then the next week we come in, and we're moving the same weight, but now we're moving it at 0.75 or 0.8 meters per second. Immediately that athlete knows, guess what? I'm getting stronger, I'm getting more powerful.
So you now prescribing based more on mean velocity, and how that compared to the traditional percentages?
Correct.
Max, are you fading a little bit, or it's not becoming as important as it used to be, or are you leveraging both?
Well, I think there's a lot of variables that kind of come into play with the athlete, because in this environment they have to be students. So maybe they're staying up really late. Maybe they're a little bit tired. Maybe we kind of have a mean point or kind of a standard median that says how hard are we working in practice. We're measuring that with the heart rates. We're seeing how much time. Well, we may say that this particular number kind of maybe applies to most of the group, but we'll find guys individually that can actually work a little bit higher, and it doesn't impact their performance. So they can actually push themselves a little more. And if they couldn't handle that, this system would be able to tell us that. We would see neuromuscularly there is a adaptation that's not occurring, it's going down. Now, every time when the athletes come in, they don't always hit their best PR, and that's okay. And I'm not looking for perfection, I'm just looking for solid. I want to see consistency. So I see sometimes the athlete stays the same, sometimes the athletes will come down. But if I see a trend of going up, and it's just a couple of, that's a good thing. But if I start seeing a trending downwards, then there are points of reference we can take a step back and be more proactive instead of reactive, maybe at a point when it's too late. And the nice thing about using this is when we don't prescribe the weight, if you notice, we have a bell over here. And so the bell, we don't use a record board. I got this idea from a high school coach, Gary Schofield, at Greater Atlanta Christian School.
Great friend.
Yeah, good guy, and phenomenal coach, and brilliant. And so I really fell in love with this idea that when you bring a freshman in here and you have a record board, how can you really indoctrinate him into the program immediately? How can he feel like he's really being a part of this part of the program, right? How can we make him really excited? Well, by being able to prescribe the velocity and not be concerned with the weight and seeing the changes in performance based on velocity and not being concerned largely with the weight, because if velocity is improving, guess what? We add weight, right? But in that particular instance, the senior down there may be repping out 315 on squat, while the freshman here maybe 135, but guess what? He's actually hit a PR this week, and the guy down at 315, he did. And his platform's competing. Well, guess what? He gets to go up, he gets to ring the bell, How good do you think that
So
kid makes it?
it's another way of motivating the kid.
Yeah,
without
absolutely.
just hitting, adding more weight.
Yeah, correct. And it's kind of the old saying, if you put an overweight kid in the classroom, he's considered the fat kid, but if you put the overweight kid in the weight room, he's probably one of the strongest. So it's a way to, being able to get them to buy into what you're doing in here. Again, we're talking about kids that maybe traditionally shy themselves away from the weight room. And because of that, maybe they aren't strong. So what's their first thing to do? I'm not very good at that, so I'm going to step away from this. But if you're able to bring that in and say, hey, regardless of your strength, you can come in here and have an impact on this team. I think you get a lot quicker, a lot easier, a lot more buy-in with the kids, and it doesn't become such a hard sell for them when they're coming in at such a young age and not being exposed.
That's a great angle, and I really appreciate for you taking the time.
Sure, absolutely.
To,
Thanks for coming in and putting this in.
Embracing PurMotion and understanding, what we do and how you can incorporate, into your program. But I have a surprise for you.
Oh yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Before we wrap up this short, it was supposed to be a short interview. I want you to show, because this is the first time we install this.
Yes.
So this will be maybe the third time you ever touch it.
Yes.
So we would love to see you do a split snatch with the gym aware
Okay.
and the screen there, and hopefully we can read what is your mean velocity.
Okay.
So we're gonna
All I'm going to ask for you in return is let me take some of this weight off. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we're gonna cut for a second. We're gonna set this up, and then we're gonna have Coach Bewley do a demo of a powerful, explosive split snatch.
Yeah. Let me check this real quick. Make sure that this is set up correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's too heavy. Too heavy. No, that's 0.51. Oh, wait a minute.
What would you
Reset
like?
this
What
one
would you
second.
like to see?
I want to see probably 0.45 to 0.75, so I'm probably okay.
That's solid.
And that's 2.44. That's moving.
What is it?
2.44. So I could probably add more weight, and I take that back. Excuse me. On the Olympic lifts, it's going to be different for snatch. I have never done snatch because I don't like being in this position.
Amen.
Now I can do the snatch movement. But I know the Olympic lifting, I know higher than 1.24. And if you get 1.24, guess what? That's like, you're like really technically proficient. Most guys are going to be around
But see, here
1.65.
you are eliminating a lot of the technical proficiency. I mean,
Yeah, that's a good
keeping
point.
Keeping it neutral, so the velocities will increase because there's not much check.
Correct.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, so again, I may have to create a different
So
standardized mean on that. But, I mean, that feels pretty good.
that's how the old men feel.
Yeah.
They won't be
See
able
what, 2.44, that's the one to beat, man.
Oh my God! Now the heat is on. Is it ready?
Yeah. 2.10, I win. 2.17. I like that kind of angle. All right, so your average is 2.14 there.
Might get wind in my butt.
That was just one time.
Oh yeah.
2.25. 2.35.
What I love about it, it forced me to work on more explosiveness and speed. I'm not trying to muscle up the weight.
No, it's
Trying
really
to fight the weight. Just working more on that explosiveness.
correct.
It's a different
You're getting-
mindset.
Yes,
Different mindset.
yes. I feel like doing this, I don't feel like I have to worry about getting a bar around my body, that I can just put my energy into the weight and finish it a little bit more in a natural motion.
I couldn't say any better. That's perfect. I mean, we like to say that, that you don't have to think so much about, your handprint, footprint, body alignment. You focus on moving the weight.
Yeah, I think it was interesting today is you guys set these up and we had a small group come in here. I just kind of told the guys what I wanted. I showed it to them and I said, find your spot. I didn't say, all right, you're going to sit up here, your feet are this far apart. I want you to grab here, make sure. It was just kind of like, hey, this is what we're going to do. A lot less cues. Just say, kind of find your spot. It's interesting to watch the guys get in there do it, and they kind of felt, hey, that didn't feel right. Let me scoot in this, oh, that feels good.
So the coaching is easier, and the learning from the athletes, you know, is more intuitive. That make it easier.
Yeah, I think that is. It's interesting, you know. I don't know why that is. I mean, maybe it's maybe I'm just not a very good coach. But anyways, but I thought it was really interesting in the fact that we do a ton of RDLs. We do a ton of single leg RDLs. And I thought, in my opinion, well, this is supported here. This would be easier. But I watched my guys today really struggle, and I'm like, wait a minute, we do band good mornings. We're doing a lot of single leg kettlebell dumbbell good mornings, and to watch them kind of have to find their center again, it was interesting to watch that today. I was pleased to see it. I was also very surprised, you know. But I thought it was neat just kind of watching the kids do it, and I think it's a more natural hip hinge because you kind of find your hinge point, because this kind of pushes you out of where you're not. I'm not in the sweet spot. I got to get in that sweet spot. So, you know, especially if you're thinking about kids just learning how to hip hinge, that'd be, obviously I don't have any, I have some veteran guys in here today, but it'd be interesting to see if, when you get somebody in here maybe who isn't a veteran, how quickly are we able to teach them how to hip hinge on this system. I'll be interested, I'll have to follow up with you on that.
I would love to hear from you, you know, how quickly they not only they learn how to use the Renegade Bar system, which one of the reasons why we have discovered that people learn it so fast is because we say the system adapts to you as opposed to you adapt to the system.
See that, yeah.
And the other thing is when it comes to hip hinge, you know, not only you can now use a traditional, you know, vertical hip hinge with the bar, but now, you know, assuming different angle, like forward or backward,
right.
The kids will be able to better understand the hip hinge concept.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one of the things that's really neat with this, I think, is being able to lean into this and then learning how to accelerate out of that position. Again, we talk about shin angles.
It's very common in sprinting.
Correct. I mean, it just sprinting down the court, transition, changing direction there, up there into this position here.
See, there's a lot of calf activation by just watching you.
Sure. Right. And then being able to come backwards with it. And now we're in a situation where we get in split stance.
So here you're balancing your forward traction with your backward traction.
Correct.
Which is acceleration and the deceleration.
Correct. And if I want to make that...
Well, now you can start incorporating that unilateral component.
Correct. Exactly. And then right into...
All ground base, all chain.
No question. Even doing the single leg, it was interesting watching the guys today. They were really... I mean, again, this system's independent here, so it's really nice to be able to come down in that position and then come up. We want to intensify that. As you sit, step forward just a little bit more. Now you get even more.
But see, I mean, today is the first day I think that you have used it the most from the last.
Yeah, this is it. I've just basically seen videos and watched it. So it's, I mean, it's a great system.
You're a good student. Mike,
thank you, George. Appreciate it, man. You got a great product here. Thanks.
Well, I just want to make sure that you use it.
And
I know you in your players will definitely get
There's
involved.
no question.
But the most important thing is to win championships.
That's it, yeah, no question. So coach has got to recruit good, right?
Yes.